With well over 100 rioters already arrested and major criminal investigations still in progress, it's time for Biden's administration to start efforts to recover the millions of dollars in cleanup and physical restoration costs that's owed by the United States from the insurrection. In addition, those responsible for the invasion are also obligated to pay for the military, National Guard, and the other inauguration day security expenses made necessary to assure that nothing like January 6th happened at the swearing-in. But it's not likely that even collectively that the Trump sycophants who have been arrested will begin to have enough money to scratch the surface of that debt anyway because they don't have jobs. They live off of welfare and food stamps, so that wouldn't be enough to cover it anyway. Um, but there is one person who is responsible and has the money, and for whom money talks, private citizen Donald Trump, who should be the lead defendant in a case to be brought by the United States to reimburse the government for its monetary losses. But of course, despite his promise to join the rioters at the Capitol, the then squatter was safely hiding out in the White House, but that would not relieve him of the legal liability for pulling the rhetorical trigger to start the invasion. And technically, I doubt that Donald Trump even has enough money. He's a failed he's a failed businessman and a fake billionaire because we don't know how much money he really has. And also he has a history of not of fucking people over because he doesn't pay people. So I doubt that he's going to pay for this either. If there's ever been a better direct evidence of a leader commanding his troops to enter battle, it's hard to think of it. That video, which will be the center of the upcoming impeachment trial, would be exhibit number one in the multi-million dollar civil damages suit. But no doubt Trump will point to his subsequent statements in which he claimed to oppose violence, and the government represented by Biden Attorney General will counter with his many other public statements making it clear that he was urging his sycophants to do whatever was necessary to stop the election certification that was violently interrupted by the invaders on January 6th. It will be up to a federal judge and or a jury of District of Columbia citizens to decide whether Trump is liable to pay the cost of the ensuing riot. And when they do, the answer should be obvious. If Trump had said it, please do not go to the Capitol, let the count go forward, then I am prepared to accept the verdict. Is there any doubt that the insurrection would have dissipated? And there dissipated again. Oh shit! Hold on, fucker. God damn it. But there are other non-marchers, who must be named as defendants. Most prominent is the enabler in chief Rudy Kaludi, who, standing by the squatter, had urged the mob to engage in the trial by combat and to stop the certification from taking place, and joining him as the named defendants because they verbally seconded Trump's incitement that day, and should be other members of his family and perhaps some Republican members of Congress. They, like Kaludi, have responsibility and money, and at the least will be important witnesses who will have vital information about Trump's motives and knowledge. But it also appears that the rioters did not all come on their own, and that they have supported financially, organizationally, and logistically in ways that made it possible for the 15,000 or more invaders to travel to Washington, and those groups and their leaders, whether present at the Capitol or not, are also responsible for what happened and should be named as defendants. But fortunately, the FBI, the Secret Service, and other agencies are gathering evidence for the criminal cases, which can be eventually, with proper safeguards, be used to enable the United States to recover what is owed. The claim is not complicated. If someone broke into your house, tore up the furniture, and broke your doors and windows, could they escape liability because they said they had a serious disagreement with your politics on the merits? That's what most of this case is involving. But there have also been enormous costs for additional security, both to stop the carnage that day and to guard against the repetition 2 weeks later. These include not only the barriers that had to be put in place, but all the expenses related to the stationing of additional federal troops, National Guard, and other law enforcement personnel. Many of those costs may not have been initially borne by the federal government, but whoever did should be able to assign their claims to the United States, which can sue on their behalf. Most of the members of Congress, their staffs, the Capitol Police, the reporters, and others caught by the invasion also have claims for physical and emotional injuries. They too can be expected to file suit, with or without their own lawyers. The Justice Department cannot represent them directly, but it can take the lead in establishing who is liable, which will greatly simplify their case. Perhaps most enticingly, if Donald Trump and his family are held liable, the world will find out just how much money they actually have. The American people are demanding accountability, impeachment or not, in the case of the United States of America versus Donald Trump will provide it. The only language that Trump understands is millions of dollars in civil verdict against him. But yep,